So this is a video underneath Oasis, starting on the port side. So we've got a large steel plate rudder, epoxy coated. Up near the top of the rudder you'll see a zinc. There's another zinc on the other side. They're removable, just held on with nuts and lock washers. Above the rudder there's what's called a retaining collar, and the retaining collar is there so if you ever bump the rudder it doesn't go up and come out of the pintle in its base. Just to the left of the rudder shaft there is a depth transducer, so that when you're backing down you don't lose your depth signal from cavitation from the prop. So that's very handy. It's the prop is a 5-bladed 52-inch sickle-shaped prop. It's got a number 5 prop nut zinc, and then below that on the shoe is 2 inches in this area of the boat, and then it's also got a zinc plate that's changeable underwater. Moving forward, which you can see better from the starboard side, is the line cutter, and then just to the left of that is the ABT track 55 horsepower stern thruster. And then looking up towards the waterline, so there's 3 through hull penetrations. The aft one is the drain from the aft port lazarette hatch. And then moving forward, you've got these 2 through hulls. The aft one carries all the outflow from the 5 bilge pumps, make that 4 bilge pumps. So that would be the pump room, the engine room, the Naiad bay, and the forward bilge. And then forward of that through hull is the discharge for both the air conditioning cooling line and the water maker. Moving forward a little bit more, you can see the sea chest. The sea chest has a removable portion here at the back. Just remove the 4 Phillips screws. It's phenolic, so in removing it you want to remove it a little carefully so you don't crack it or break it. It's never been a problem, but just you need to take care when you take it out. And then we paint with black bottom paint up inside here and up inside the sea chest each time. So the keel from this point forward has a 1-inch steel shoe running all the way forward to the stem. The stabilizing fins are Naiad 302s with 16 square foot fins. There's a line cutter up in front of the fin which prevents either kelp or fishing lines from getting trapped between the hull and the fin. And then inboard of that there is a reference anode right in the center of the screen, and that's for telling whether or not your cathodic protection is adequate. So it tells you if you're over zinced or under zinced. Moving forward from here, we come to the sonar pod. The sonar pod has a removable hatch. So there's about 20 screws. You pull the screws out, then use something like a fane tool with a spatula end and just run it all the way around. That cuts through the 4200. It's about an inch wide gasket of 4200, and that plate pops off. And then inside that compartment all the way forward is a Brooks & Gatehouse B&G depth temperature transducer, and then after that are 2 depth temperature Meritron transducers which are made by Aramar. And then after that is the big Furuno sonar unit that has the electronic hoist inside the sonar bay that deploys and retracts, and it comes down about 22 inches below the keel. So coming forward from here, there are 2 more through hull penetrations. So the aft one I believe is the galley sink, and it's the bar sink on the port side, and that's the forward one of the 2, and the aft one of the 2 is from the day head. So it's the day head discharge line, and that actually works for both the head and the sink. which we never use, but in case of emergency, you have a toilet that could discharge directly overboard. Coming forward from that area, we're getting up near the bow of the boat now. Here's another 55 horsepower ABT bow thruster. There are 2 through-hull penetrations. The aft one is carrying discharge from the head in the master stateroom, and it's on a Y valve, so it's typically valved to go to the black water tank, but if you had a problem with the black water tank and you needed to use the head, you could flip that Y valve and you could discharge the toilet and the master directly overboard. Just forward of that is a glassed in through hull which carries the deck drains from the foredeck where the anchor is, and there's a drain on the port side of that deck, and it drains out through this hole here. Coming forward from here, you see the 4-foot diameter bulbous valve. There are 1 transducer very far forward, which is an Aramar transducer, 170 kilohertz for checking depth at the forward end of the boat, and that's for the B&G unit. And then I'm just going to slide under here so you can see it. Looking underneath, there we go. So there are 2 more transducers to the right of, so the one to just the center of left of the screen is the new transducer for the B&G, for the bow, and those other 2 transducers are data marine transducers, which currently aren't being used. They were just there, so we had transducers in place without having to open the bulb. Then there's chafe guard running around the bulb. You see the two bands. We're just in the process of painting the bat now. And now we're sliding around to the starboard side of the boat. And these 2 through hulls here, so the forward one is the deck drain from the foredeck on the starboard side, and the aft through hull is the shower sink from the master stateroom, which can be diverted through a Y valve to discharge directly overboard. Also handles the bilge pump discharge for the bow thruster compartment, and the washing machine can be discharged either to the black water tank to kind of clean any sludge out, which is how we normally run, but if you had a problem with the plumbing or the pump or the black water tank, you could Y valve that so that the clothes washer can discharge directly overboard. Thruster moving aft. You see the first large zinc plate which is bolted on so it can be changed in the water. Moving a little bit further aft is the second zinc. Just above that zinc is the paddle wheel for the speed log for the B&G. And that's accessed in the sonar bay, so that's kind of right across from the sonar pod at this point. Looking slightly aft, you can see the keel cooler. It's a Walker's keel cooler for the main engine. And inboard of that is the discharge for the gray and black tank where it discharges overboard. Then going a little bit aft of that, there is another through hull penetration. See if I can get that in the center of the screen, right there. And that is connected to a Jabsco emergency bilge pump to pump out any of the compartments using an engine-driven mechanical pump. We also use it both to flood and pump out the bulb, which holds about 500 gallons, so the bulb can be tanked with seawater. Starboard stabilizing fin and line cutter. Those fins are typically pulled off every 3 to 5 years, so you can change the 2 lower lip seals. It needs a hydraulic tool and hydraulic pump in order to pop them off, which we carry on board the boat. And you've got to bring it up to about 32 or 3400 psi in order to pop those fins off. and you want to have a forklift or something under them because 2 or 3 people can't hold it, it's too heavy. Coming back further aft, we have our third keel zinc, followed by the stern thruster, and then a closer look at the line cutter, which has a zinc on it. And then it's a good idea to clean out these scoops here at the back end of the shaft billet, which cools and lubricates the after 17-inch bearing. So there's 2 17-inch bearings, one aft in this section, another one in this section, and then a very short length of shaft going to the gear. And then here's the rudder on the starboard side, and you see its zinc. And then we'll try and step back here and pan up, see if we can see this. So you're seeing the main engine exhaust off to the left, and the generator 2 and generator 1's exhaust coming through, and then the through hull fitting right in the center of the screen, that is for the aft starboard lazarette. And this through hull fitting here is for the hydraulic cooling tank. So if you had to run the take-home drive and needed to cool the hydraulic oil, it would discharge out through this port here. And that pretty well concludes the underwater section of this video. This is looking inside the bulbous valve. So you're looking right now at the starboard side of the bulb. There's the inspection hatch in the lower center section, and there's a pipe running fore and aft which angles down to the lower right portion of the screen. That's the suction line that has a strainer on it for sucking out the bulb and pumping in the bulb. Just after that you see a data marine transducer, which was never used. And you get a better look at the inspection hatch. There's a center baffle, and then moving over here to the port side of the bulb, you see again, so you see way in the back, you see 2 wires, and those 2 wires are the wire to the B&G valve, bulbous valve transducer, and a spare wire. And then the vertical plastic pipe running from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen is the Tenderloin. And there is a gland up at the top that it goes through to get into the forward stem of the boat. And same thing looking back at the back of the bulb, way in the back, there's a wire gland there for the B&G wires going up to the an A-B switch back behind the galley electrical panel, so you can switch between which cable you want to use. Then looking down here at the very front of the bulb, this is a new B&G 170 kilohertz transducer for the B&G, and it is on center line about 2 feet back from the front of the bulb, and we installed that in July of 2018. And you see the C strainer and center baffle, and that's about it for this section of the boat.